Indiana Fever star Sophie Cunningham makes personal admission about Caitlin Clark. Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark certainly grew close during their first season together with the Indiana Fever. Cunningham, who averaged 8.6 points, 3.5 rebounds, 1.2 assists and 1.0 steal per game in 2025, became a fan favorite in Indiana after she avenged Clark against J.C. Sheldon during a game against the Connecticut Sun in June. The 29-year-old guard developed a reputation as the Fever's enforcer as a result, earning her a wave of new followers and supporters in the process. Clark and Cunningham's friendship only strengthened after that. In fact, during the recent Pro-Am golf event that precedes the Annika driven by Gainbridge at Pelican Golf Club, Cunningham served as one of Clark's caddies, along with Lexi Hall. Jobs report blows past expectations, defying hiring slowdown. Employers hired far more workers than expected in September, defying a sharp slowdown over the summer that appeared to cool off the labor market. The U.S. added 119,000 jobs in September, according to data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. That figure marked an acceleration from the previous month, and it exceeded an average of nearly 100,000 jobs added per month over the first half of 2025. The report included a downward revision for the month of August, however, slashing performance from 22,000 jobs gained that month to 4,000 jobs lost. The unemployment rate ticked up to 4.4%, which marks the highest level since October 2021. Still, the unemployment rate remains low by historical standards. A stock market sell-off over recent days underscored the uncertainty looming over the economy as some investors warned of an AI bubble. Blockbuster earnings unveiled by chip giant NVIDIA late Wednesday, however, appeared to rebuke such concerns. Should recent layoffs at major companies worry you? Experts weigh in. Mass layoffs at corporate giants like Amazon, UPS, and Verizon in recent weeks have drawn attention to a sluggish labor market and stoked fears that job losses may spread. It is likely too early to panic, however, some economists previously told ABC News. While the layoffs reflect a weakened labor market and AI adoption in some corners of the tech industry, they added, the prospect of wider job losses remains highly uncertain. Inflation has picked up in recent months while hiring has slowed, posing a risk of an economic double whammy known as stagflation. Those economic conditions have put the Federal Reserve in a bind, since the central bank must balance a dual mandate to keep inflation under control and maximize employment. We have the situation where the risks are to the upside for inflation and to the downside for employment. We have one tool, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said at a press conference in Washington, D.C. last month. You can't address both of those at once. Still, Powell said, concern has tilted toward strain in the labor market, prompting the central bank to reduce interest rates 0.25 percentage point at each of its last two meetings. A further reduction of the policy rate in December is not a foregone conclusion. In fact, far from it, Powell told reporters. Chip giant NVIDIA beats revenue expectations, rebuking warnings of an AI bubble. Traders peg the chances interest rates will be left unchanged next month at about 66%, while the odds of a quarter-point rate cut stand at 33%, according to the CME FedWatch tool, a measure of market sentiment. On Wednesday, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, said it would not release a full jobs report for the month of October due to lost capacity during the shutdown. Rather, partial jobs data for October will be released as part of the November report, the BLS said. Sophie Cunningham had always believed she'd seen every kind of teammate, veterans who talked too much, rookies who talked too little, stars who pretended the pressure didn't bother them, and role players who carried the locker room on their backs. But nothing, she often joked, had prepared her for Caitlin Clark. The jokes, however, were starting to sound less like jokes and more like confessions. On a gray Indiana morning, with training camp only half an hour away, Sophie sat on a small wooden bench outside Gainbridge Fieldhouse. She was tying her shoes when a reporter asked the question she didn't know she'd been waiting to answer. What has Caitlin Clark really brought to your team, beyond the headlines? Sophie paused. Her fingers froze on the final knot. She looked up, not with her usual smirk, but with a slow breath she didn't try to hide. That was when the admission slipped out. Honestly? She's changed me. More than I expected. More than I wanted to admit. The words surprised even her. Caitlin Clark had arrived in Indiana as a comet, bright, fast, loud, and impossible to ignore. The cameras followed her. Fans traveled states for a glimpse. Kids painted her number on homemade posters and held them with trembling hands. Celebrities tweeted about her before Sophie had even met her. For someone like Cunningham, competitive, fiery, protective of team chemistry, it was a lot. She had expected ego. She had expected distance. She had expected stardom to create a wall, as it often did. What she didn't expect was the opposite. Clark, with the swagger of a sharpshooter and the humility of a rookie who still carried her own bags, somehow made everyone around her feel like they were part of something larger. But Sophie didn't admit that. Not at first. In the beginning, she had tested Clark the way older siblings test younger ones. On the court, she made her run through screens that felt like cement walls. Off the court, she teased her ruthlessly for her terrible dancing, her mountain of Chipotle orders, her compulsive need to rewatch film clips at 1 a.m. "Do you ever sleep?" Sophie once asked. "Not when I'm missing shots," Caitlin shrugged. It was in that moment that something shifted. Sophie noticed the honesty, the accountability, the hunger. She respected it, reluctantly at first, fully soon after. And she noticed something else. When Clark entered the gym, the energy changed. Everyone moved quicker. Everyone passed sharper. Everyone talked louder. It wasn't fanfare, it was gravitational pull. Sophie, who prided herself on effort and toughness, ended up training harder simply because Clark existed on the same floor. But this morning's admission was about something deeper than basketball. Inside practice, after the reporters drifted away, the Fever players warmed up. Caitlin was near the corner, working on an off-balance three that looked physically impossible. One leg forward, body leaning, wrists snapping like a whip. Sophie jogged over. "You know," she said casually, "I told the media something weird today." Caitlin kept shooting. "Oh boy. Should I be nervous?" "Probably," Sophie smirked. "I told them you changed me." The ball clanged off the rim. Clark froze. "Me? What do you mean?" Sophie rolled her eyes dramatically. "Relax. Don't get emotional. It's not that deep." But it was. Clark tilted her head, waiting. Sophie sighed. Her voice softened. "You made me slow down. Appreciate stuff. I didn't realize how much I was going through the motions. You came in here with this fire and it just..." She snapped her fingers. "It woke me up." Caitlin blinked, clearly unsure what to do with sincerity. Thanks," she said awkwardly. Sophie groaned. "See? This is why I don't compliment you. It's like talking to a golden retriever." Clark laughed, shoving her lightly. "Start over. I want to hear it."